Hello, SMOD friends. How's everybody doing out there? I wanted to make a video today about some heavy metal bands that you've never heard, or most likely have never heard unless you're a diehard. And you know, my audience is very, very smart, so it would not surprise me if some of you know these bands. But they're pretty underground bands, and they're from the early 80s. I like to cover bands that are from many decades ago. It's fun for me to talk about bands that, are not this generation, because the channel is obviously streaming newer stuff. It's all about streaming albums of newer bands. So I don't really ever have the opportunity to do any streaming of old albums, just simply because I can't get in touch. I can't get permission from the people that own the music, so I'm not going to post anything from any of these old bands. And YouTube is also telling me that I need to start making my own content. They basically told me that streaming albums, collections of songs, is not very valuable, and it's not worthy of their support. And so, naughty Clint, you need to start making your own videos. You need to start talking about stuff. And so I guess I will talk about music. If that's what they want me to do, I'll make videos talking about music. I know a lot about music, and I'll talk about bands. I'll spend many videos talking about bands, because apparently, even if you have permission, which I have permission for every single album that I post, it doesn't seem to matter to them. They just want you babbling in front of the camera, and you could be talking about the most useless crap on the planet, but as long as you're actually talking about something yourself, it's fine. But if you're just posting other people's creations, even with permission, even if you're providing them with a promotional service, they don't care. So I'm making these videos because it's the only way I can make videos myself that actually apply to this type of channel, the music channel. I mean, it's a music-based channel. I have to make music-based videos, and so since I'm being told to make my own stuff, this is what I'm going to do. So that's why I'm making all these videos. Is YouTube is just basically harassing me for no reason. I mean, the channel's not being threatened to be deleted or anything like that, but it's just like they made me feel like a less valuable member of YouTube because I stream albums, and like that's somehow some sin to do that. So I'm creating my own content. I'm talking about something I'm very knowledgeable about, old music. So hopefully these videos are informative and you're enjoying them. I'm sorry there's not super fancy production values or anything like that. I have very basic camera, very basic programs that I can use for these videos, so it's not a super fancy presentation or anything like that. But I'm going to be talking about three more early 80s bands that are a little less doomy, but have enough of a doom vibe to them, enough doom, the name and the artwork, and there's some, there's just that rough style that I think doom fans would enjoy. And they're bands that, if you like Diamond Head and, Judas Priest and Saxon and, all that kind of stuff, you would like these bands. There's a few bands that I think need to be pointed to. I'm going to be talking about a couple from England. One is Bitches Sin, and they were formed in 1980, and they released a couple of pretty good records. Later on, they released demos, and so one of their demos was released not too long ago, and it's really great stuff. So Bitches Sin is one. Also, I'm going to be talking about Witch Cross. They were from Denmark, and they had some doomy stuff, but mostly they were more thrashy. Hollow Ground is the third band I'm going to talk about. They are also from England, formed in 1979. They had a cool release called Warlord that I'm going to talk about. And these are bands that, although they're thrashier than a lot of Doom fans might prefer, I think that they're worthy of talking about. They have that real rough style. So let's talk about Bitches Sin, Witchcross, and Hollow Ground. Let's get into the presentation. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon. Alright, thank you for tuning in to my presentation about 3 heavy metal bands from the early 80s that you haven't heard. Unless you're an expert, I guarantee you there are some very smart fans that tune into these videos that have heard of at least 1 or 2 of these bands. I try to pick bands that a lot of people haven't heard of, and this first band is my favorite of the 3. They're called Bitches Sin, and I just love that band name. That's the kind of band name that tells me that, you know, they don't care. They're not here to win any popularity contests. They're not here to be politically correct. I mean, Bitches Sin is just such a perfect heavy metal name. That's the kind of kick-ass and, you know, take no prisoners attitude that we need in heavy metal. And their music definitely sums up this attitude very well. They were formed around 1980/81 in Cumbria, England. They had brothers, Ian and Pete Toomey, on guitar. And this dual guitar playing is what you're here for. I mean, this is what you're listening to this kind of stuff for. You're listening to it for the riffs, power of the riff. I mean, that's why I want to talk about bands like this, because even though the bands in this video are not strictly stoner or doom, they're not slow, they don't play slow, you're not going to get prototypical stoner and doom music in these bands, but they know their way around riffs, and that is what most people who like this channel are into. They want the riffs. And these guys play them so well. I love brothers. I love the bands that have brothers that play the dual guitar. Those are some of the best bands out there for metal. And Bitches Sin, they are one of the best I've heard with their dual guitar playing. They are obviously influenced by bands like Deep Purple and the Scorpions and Judas Priest and Blue Oyster Cult. The brothers, they took a lot of influence from Saxon and Iron Maiden, all these great bands. But these guys did have a bit of a doom influence on some of their songs. It comes through a little bit here and there, but it's got that grimy, gritty garage feel to the recording, which really gives it that atmosphere and gives it that uniqueness that makes it doomy. It makes it great for the underground heavy metal fans that are into doom music. So even though they don't play strictly doom metal, they have that great garage, analog, blue collar, really filthy and grimy, rough production that you just gotta love. So they released a couple albums in the 80s. I just really want to talk about First Temptation, which was released in 2007 first. This was a collection of some of their earliest stuff, their earliest demo. It had a 7-track demo called 12 Pounds and No Kinks, which was recorded around 1980-81. And boy, 12 Pounds is such a great collection of songs. I really, really love that collection. I especially want to highlight the songs White Lady, Bitches Sin, and especially Ice Angels. Ice Angels is an absolutely gorgeous song, and that's one of their longer songs at 5.5 minutes long, and it really does brood and it gets a bit doomy on that one. So Doom fans, you'll love the song Ice Angels if nothing else on the album, but the album is really good. It's a collection, like I said, of some of their earliest recordings, and the entire thing is really good. Bitches Sin is such a great track, and White Lady is such a great track, but Ice Angels is my favorite. They released another album called Invaders, which had a really great opening track, April Fools. So definitely check out Bitches Sin. The next band I want to talk about is called Hollow Ground. They were formed in Northeast England in the late 70s. They were one of the cutting edge groups of new wave of British heavy metal, and they only released 6 tracks. And it's the Warlord release, which contains tracks like Flying High, Warlord, Rock On, Don't Chase the Dragon. They also recorded a couple other tracks, Flight with the Devil and The Holy One, along with Rock to Love, Promised Land, Easy Action, and Loser. These were all eventually compiled into a compilation album that you can get, and I recommend that album. They featured Glenn Coates on vocals and Martin McAuliffe as the lead guitar player, and his guitar riffs are really, really good on this recording. They didn't have a very long career. They only lasted until about 1982, and they only released that one collection collection of songs. However, they did reform a couple times in the 2000s, but it does not look like they released any more albums. So they have one collection of songs to dig into. You can find it on Spotify. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. Check out their Warlord release. It's got some really good stuff on it. The last band I want to talk about is called Witch Cross. This is the band that's not from England. They're from Denmark. They released one album, Fit for Fight, and then they, like most of these bands, vanished from the face of the earth after a very short career. But they did gain a loyal cult following, and many people celebrate their career. But they did reunite in 2011, and they released Axe to Grind, an 11-track album, in 2013. But their earliest stuff was recorded in the early 80s, between 1981 and 1984. You had Fit for Fight, obviously their debut album. You also had some demos in the early 80s. Fit for Fight is a really good release though. I gave it a good listen. I want to recommend specifically the track Killer Dogs. That was my favorite track on the album. They get lengthy on some of these tracks. Not doomy, but Killer Dogs does get slightly doomy, so I wanted to recommend Killer Dogs if you listen to one song from the album. But the riff playing is quite good. They were formed in 1980 by vocalist Alex Savage. They also had Mike Koch on guitars. The guitar playing is quite good from this band. They also had a second guitarist, Mike Stoney, but he left very shortly and was replaced by Cole Hamilton. And that's when they started to develop their twin guitar, Judas Priest-inspired sound. And they were produced by Niels Lund, who worked with Merciful Fate and King Diamond, and they recorded their Fit for Fight album at the legendary Easy Sound Studio in Copenhagen. So a lot of talented people were helping work on this album, and it really does show. So check out Witch Cross and the other bands I mentioned as well. I hope this video was interesting and you found some new stuff to check out. Thanks for listening. Doom on. I will talk to you soon.